Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About Human Rights, the show in which we discuss all things related to human rights. I'm your host, Jules Allender, and I am part of the California chapter of Youth for Human Rights International. Youth for Human Rights International's purpose is to enlighten and educate people around the world on what their human rights are, with the specific focus on the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And with this education to enable and inspire the youth of today as our leaders of tomorrow to stand up and secure these rights for themselves and all people on earth. For each show, we like to take up one right and try to broaden your understanding of how this right is important and relevant to you and your loved ones. For today's show, we'll be looking at human right number 29, responsibility. And it reads, 1. Everyone has duties to the community in which alone the free and full development of his personality is possible. 2. In the exercise of his rights and freedoms, everyone shall be subject only to such limitations as determined by law solely for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others and of meeting the just requirements of morality, public order, and the general welfare in a democratic society. 3. These rights and freedoms may in no case be exercised contrary to the purpose and principles of the United Nations. Let's take a look at a short video on this human right.
Good morning. I'm here to read you your rights.
My what?
We're all free and equal. Don't discriminate. You have the right to life.
You have the right to life and to live in freedom and safety.
You have a right to education.
You have a right to your own things.
You have the right to social security. You have the right to play.
You have the right to democracy. You have the right to asylum.
You have the right to take responsibility.
And no one
and nobody can take these rights and freedoms away from you.
Why are you doing this?
You have a right to know.
Let's examine these ideas a little more closely. We have a duty to other people, and we should protect their rights and freedoms. It says duty. A duty is more than a request. A duty is a personal commitment to another person, group, or organization. It is something that compels us to act toward a given purpose, a moral commitment. Other people need your help. They need your assistance. They need your advice, and they need your friendship. But above all this, they need you to watch out for them to ensure that they have their human rights intact. This is no small job and not a job just one person can do. And it isn't good enough that they have heard about human rights in some far-off distant place. They need to know and experience these rights where they are living, working, and going to school. It is a special type of person who cares enough about another person to ensure that their rights are intact. This person is a cut above the average guy. They are not so self-centered that they are just fixated on their own situation. They are aware of others and how they are doing, and they are trying to be effective in helping them improve. The only way you can be that kind of person, a person who is ensuring others' rights are intact, is to be as aware as possible, as attentive as possible, and to be educated about human rights. And you will need help. This is a big job. Many parts of the world have just about given up on human rights today, or so it seems. It's just survival of the fittest or who has a bigger gun. But things don't have to be that way. Things can be reasoned out. The environment can be calm. There is freedom, freedom of thought, and the right to pursue your own goals and dreams. There is equality and justice. These things do exist, but mankind and womankind need to choose to put them there. Education about human rights to a broad number of people is one of the keys that bring all of us our rights. Education and open discussion about the nuances of each right. Too often, Abuses occur right in front of an otherwise decent individual, and they do nothing. Why? More than likely, not being educated on the subject of human rights. They just cannot see it for what it is. The best way to take away others' rights is to not provide any education about their human rights, not enlighten them about their freedoms and liberties. It is an oddity, maybe, that you have to educate a person towards his right, and that they are not known naturally. Maybe it is because as a child they need to be controlled in a severe manner so that they don't harm themselves. For example, a baby is not often given a chance to act freely and eat as much ice cream as they want. But once they are 10 to 12 years old, they need to be taught what their human rights are, and they need to be continued to be taught for a number of years after that until every young adult can observe and identify where anyone's human rights are being violated. With this kind of education occurring, human rights can become a fact. With you watching out for your neighbor's rights, they can become a permanent fixture in our lives. My guests today are filmmakers. In fact, for 15 years they have written, produced, and directed their films and documentaries. And in doing so, this dynamic duo has received over 75 awards as writers and directors, and they go by the name of Dream Team Directors. This dream team is made up of Danielle Lear and Bayou Bennett. Together, they won 34 awards for their film Tombstone Pillow, which was shot in a cemetery where 6,000 families live in the Philippines, and was introduced in Italy by Oscar nominee Edward Norton. Most recently, they won the Leonardo Award at the Da Vinci International Film Festival for the documentary Destination Angels, which also won Best Short Documentary at French Riviera Film Festival, Cannes. Over the last 15 years, they have worked with many of the top names in the film industry with the goal of telling stories that matter. Welcome.
Thank you. So inspired to be here. This is incredible.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm so happy to have you and looking forward very much to your storytelling, which you do, I guess, for a living.
We do. We take responsibility seriously.
That's awesome. So yeah, let's just start by telling me a little bit about each of you and what brought you to this industry.
Do you want to start, Bay?
Sure. So basically, I got my Master's of Fine Arts, and during that, I found Maya Deren. She was a woman filmmaker and also performance artist, and she brought up different messages, and I was like, wow, I would like to do that. And then I ended up moving to New York, and I became a professor of filmmaking. I was the first woman to teach in the media department at Parsons New School. Mm-hmm. And then I was doing my own films, and then also a performance artist. And then with that, everything had messages, no matter if I was teaching my students or my performance art, and then or my documentaries. And then Daniel and I met in the Lower East Side of New York City, and then literally, I was going to Jordan Amman to teach filmmaking, and it's a war-torn environment, as we know. And while I was there, I was like, wow, I have to do something about this. I have to write a script about it. And little did I know, he was also writing the same thing about his life.
Yeah, we shared like this common desire to tell a story about youth growing up in war zones, or the things that unite us in, say, the Western world, the United States, and then also in the Arab world, in the Middle East, where teenagers are teenagers, right? They're just trying to be teenagers, but they're, in the Middle East, they're having to deal with, threats that we don't have in this, in the Western world. And so what makes us similar is greater than what divides us. This was the first thing that set us off as storytellers.
Yeah, definitely very similar.
That's right.
Yeah, that's very cool. And so you obviously make films for a living and tell stories that matter. And I guess, like, how do you find those stories, or what inspires different stories like that?
Well, I mean, I think we're kind of known as like change makers through our filmmaking, and so as documentaries, we've been able to work with people such as Mark Ruffalo on an anti-fracking documentary, and then from like just recently Michelle Pfeiffer, she has a perfume that is like non-toxic, and then also the packaging is
environmental.
Yeah, and then I'd say that's one way.
Yeah, sometimes people find us. Sometimes, like for example, with Tombstone Pillow, we went to the Philippines filming a documentary there, and there we discovered in a cemetery where we were filming an interview that there's families, women, children, grandmothers who live in the cemetery, cooking on tombs, sleeping on tombs, going to school on tombs. And that was a story that something we couldn't get out of our mind, and something we absolutely felt we needed to put our filmmaking to work to make the world more aware of this, and to somehow, raise awareness and fight for this community that we just couldn't imagine that human beings deserve to live in that state, and the human right of food and shelter is so important in that context. And it's like, we're just gonna take education with entertainment, and we're gonna, change the world. That's what we do every day we wake up. That's our mission.
God, what's more fun than that? I mean, seriously.
Exactly.
Purpose-driven, and you can create. It's very cool.
Thank you.
So I'd love to hear or fill our audience in a little bit more about, Tombstone Pillow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it's a wild concept.
Yeah, we went to the Philippines because we were following a group of doctors there who were there dedicating their time and their skills and their experience to help individuals there from very low income who had all kinds of difficult medical conditions but had no access to health care.
And what he means is following, he means documentaries. We were doing that, we were just following them, we were filming them, and so there you go. And then,
that's a big difference, right?
that's a big difference.
Yeah, so we followed these doctors documenting what they were doing and how they were helping people. And what's so exciting about being a filmmaker is you're thrust into these worlds and universes that you know nothing about. You have no such experience, especially growing up in suburbia like we did here, and I did in Los Angeles, to go to the Philippines in these very outlying regions with very extreme poverty. It really changes your life, and it changes the way that you look at the world. And so during the path of making that film, we discovered this community living in the cemeteries, and we just felt like we really needed to tell a story about it. So we based it on real life events, and then we got the funding for it, and we worked with the Hope for the World Foundation, which is this foundation that helps individuals through medical care with doctors. And it's just been such an amazing story to share this around the world and have people resonate with it, especially during the pandemic where everyone was, locked up basically. They saw that other situations are worse, and the film has this message of helping other people. Whoever's next to you, how can you help? I don't remember exactly who said, if you're feeling helpless, help someone, right? It's that concept. And people were very inspired and moved by the film, that's when we know we did a good job.
Right. Yeah, it communicates. I mean, real life communicates, not
True.
facades and not fakeness, but I think something especially that can cut so deep like that, right? We live in the United States. There's a lot of things that you don't think happens, and I found out a lot by hosting this show, is interviewing different people in any one of these human rights, and I'm like, there's no way that that's real, right? Because it's so evil.
I know.
Exactly.
It's so bad. You just go, there's no way that that happens, but yet it does.
It does.
Right.
It does.
And
I feel like with filmmaking, it just has this amazing ability to, reach audiences around the world. And if you do it right, if you do it in a way that's non-preachy, but just like really honest, great storytelling with high craft and also, entertainment, and it really goes far, and you empower communities and you make people more aware. And for example, in our latest film, Connection, which is an environmental themed film, we were commenting on plastic pollution in Africa. And Greenpeace were putting out photos of like this immense plastic pollution in these rivers. And like a year later, the area was completely cleaned up because the governments felt such pressure that they were being exposed for what was happening in that country. And it's amazing. Or like in Connection, we were filming in India in sweatshops. We found out during the making of this film that child labor is completely gone in India in these factories, and the harmful chemical dyes are completely gone as well. So through storytelling, through media, we're able to influence and change the world.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well done. I
Thank
almost
you.
cursed. No, that is really something.
Yeah.
And so with that, with the Tombstone Pillow, what kind of, not, I guess feedback's the word of the day for me apparently, but maybe change, or what were reactions to it, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was that, wow, okay, this shouldn't be, and also I do think, because the message was definitely about what the beautiful people of the Philippines were experiencing, but it also gave whoever watched it a hope, to do something, and that it's simply by just helping the ones in need. And in our film, the woman comes, she's a witch, not a witch, sorry. Rich.
She is a witch at the beginning of the film, for sure.
Like a witch. We had her like Cruella DeVille, okay? So she was like that, and at the end she's like Audrey Hepburn, and she literally helps and brings food and medical help to the people. And so in that, it was just, I think, giving a lot of people hope and making them realize that they can help, and also getting awareness there. But when we did ask the area what they wanted, they want jobs. That's what they want. That's what we found. We surveyed and found that out.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you go in there, you're thinking they want, better housing or running water or this or that, but they want jobs.
They want to produce.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's quite a different than other places.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we get to come on amazing shows like this. We get to do magazine articles and press releases, and we get to put out these great messages into the world, which educate people and they enlighten them, and they, it turns attention to that area and ends up helping that area.
Yeah.
So that's rewarding.
I would say.
Yeah.
It definitely turns attention and helps. So it's very cool. And then you did a film called Finding Our Voice about high school individuals teaching human rights.
That's right.
Yeah, it was basically about these 3 girls that are like little presidents. They're so absolutely impressive, and they were very inspired by Youth for Human Rights. And their education, they felt, was not relevant, and so they saw dropout statistics, right? They saw people wanting to do everything besides get an education, do drugs, et cetera, and they're like, education needs to be more relevant. So let's get these human rights into public school. You know what I mean? Let's have a social change education that's actually meaningful, that has to do with the real world that we're living in. And so these change makers, we follow them in the film, document them in the film, and
not stock.
Not stock. Yeah. And so these girls were just so impressive in getting their classmates to understand the importance of human rights, and I relate to it. I mean, there's so many challenges in the world that we live in, in our community, so many pressures, and I think these girls are just like really positive role models for their community, and it's eye-opening. Most people don't know that there's the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
I know.
They're not aware of it.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful to see young champions. I feel like change has got to happen from the youngest generation.
Yep.
So these human rights have to go into our schools early, right? Elementary school, high school. I feel like having that as a foundation, and that awareness of a global village that we live in, and we have to take responsibility for everyone in the village, that's what's going to create the big impact that we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you anymore. I mean, it is the foundation to life, right, is these human rights. I've talked to individuals who are experts in religion and interfaiths and things of that nature. And, religion is something that one holds very near and dear, right? It's kind of the fabric of your makeup a little bit, right? Kind of where your morals start to come from and things of that nature. But there are religions, that don't acknowledge all of the human rights, right? And so human rights is that underlying factor to life on earth. Like these need to go in first.
Yeah.
And everything needs to, everything on top of it needs to adhere to these basic human rights.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And so, to get them into schools, middle schools, high schools, we here at Youth for Human Rights California are actually doing a project, and we're doing a large study to be able to put these, get legislation passed to put these in schools in California.
Yay.
Yeah.
That is seriously
That's
going to
awesome.
change the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, because, they're so sane, right? And they give one knowledge, responsibility, control. And like you said, a large amount of people don't even know that they have them. So how am I going to respect them if I don't even know I have them?
True.
So,
Exactly.
So true.
yeah. And then you've done obviously many other films. And are there other films that you felt have created similar impacts or that, speak on these topics?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, our recent film, Connection, which was shot in Pakistan, Hong Kong, India, Ghana, and then obviously LA. It basically brings us all together, and it creates responsibility from environmentalism. And so the character's journey of like what she does as an influencer and kind of like, I guess, not someone that doesn't care about the environment, and then at
she's not even aware of it. She's just completely self-focused, self-centered.
Yeah, our character. So she literally, like, for example, at the beginning of the film, she's high powered and she's moving, and then she like goes to her balcony in a high rise and she drops a Coke bottle and it lands in Africa, and this little girl picks it up, and it's like shows how we're connected and how like one action here would affect another part of the like our world, our whole planet. And so at the end of it, she's aware of the beginning. She's only aware of herself, sort of, basically, and then she becomes more aware of animals. She has a trip to the beach, and she becomes more aware of how what we do affects them. And then she's gonna. I don't want to give it all away, but like, you gotta watch it. It's called Connection.
Yeah, I'll watch it.
It's just kind of cool because we have people from a younger generation who would not be into environmentalism, but we're telling the story in such a modern, cool way with fashion and things like this that they're like, oh my God, Daniel, I'm not going to buy jeans anymore because I have to know where they come from. Did you know like hundreds of gallons of water are used in the creation of jeans, and the sweatshops in India where workers work under horrible conditions. Like, they want to know what's behind. Right. Gen Z's smart, but they're we're happy to be able to tell a story aimed at Gen Z and get them to know even more. Like pulling behind the fast fashion rack when you're shopping. Like, what lies behind the rack?
Right.
What individuals are there? What workers are there? What are their conditions like? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just encouraging them, hey, you could buy local, you could buy secondhand instead of using a plastic water bottle, which not only, it's not just me or by you drinking a plastic water bottle. We wouldn't, but even if we did, it's that times a million, hundreds of millions of people on Earth. We got a huge problem.
Right.
Not only that, microplastics are going into your body if it's not made out of plant-based plastic.
Right.
So it's really cool to be able to have someone watch your film and be like, oh my God, like, you're really changing the way that I'm thinking about the world.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's like when you start reading food labels.
Right.
You're like, well, this is kind of what they use to make gasoline, right? And it really is.
Bottles,
it's eye-opening.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think it's, I know that for myself, like, I've really changed the way I've eaten or ate, whatever the right word is, as I've been more and more educated, right?
Yeah.
And as I've become more and more familiar with my body. But, it's like, what do these things do ultimately? Where do they come from? What are they made of? And what is it going to do to me, right? And so it's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it's so brilliant how at the beginning of the show you talked about, like, how does one person affect the community? How do they affect others? Well, it's like the food that we eat. How does it affect us? How does that affect a community? You know what I mean? I feel like it's not just, without reason that there's been like a cancer epidemic. You know what I mean? People aren't really educated about what they eat, where the food comes from, the pesticides that are used in the food. So I feel like the more educated we get, the more we learn about our human rights, the more we learn about the connection that we share with other people on the planet, it leads us in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And where is one able to watch these films?
Yeah, so we have a website called Dream Team Directors, and so you can go there, and it will show either screenings or where you can see it. So Amazon.com has Tombstone Pillow, and then also Amazon Prime, and then also Instagram, Dream Team Directors. Okay. Yeah. So
we're always posting about our explorations and adventures together, making films together on Instagram.
Right. It would only be natural, being storytellers. I'm trying to figure out how to do that for my business, so I'm sure it's natural for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's what's cool. I feel like in traditional media, not everyone had access to it, but now with social media, individuals can pick up their phone and tell stories about things that are important to them. So we could start like a human rights campaign with just user-generated content, meaning like people just picking up their phones and telling stories that are meaningful to them in human rights.
Right.
I think that's what's so cool about the era that we live in, is that we can share stories.
Right.
Yeah,
and then speaking of like reaching people and sharing, so obviously I would assume that you guys come up with the concept, the two of you, and then you work with a crew or and obviously you've worked with some tremendous actors and whatnot. And Do their perspectives change as they see these films and things of that nature, or realize what you're shooting in the stories you're telling?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, like, for example, the film, going back to Connection, because it was a recent film, but Barit LaBelle, she's an amazing model and actress, and I think she's worn every dress and everything from the top to, whatever, and she was like, wow, it really has opened my eyes to this, like what I need to realize and think about, where do the clothes come from? And so that was amazing there. And then where else do you think? Like,
I think what we really like doing is working with people that are like mutually like-minded. I think that's really exciting. When you have someone like a celebrity like Mark Ruffalo, the guy just radiates just incredible energy. And he just wants to get out there and use his power to give a voice to the voiceless and to help his community and to put out good messages into the world.
And the planet.
Yeah, and the planet. So when you work with someone like that, you feel uplifted. And then they feel uplifted, and you're working together to do something great. Or recently working with Michelle Pfeiffer, she just has such a purpose to, help people through her environmentalism. Or Jane Fonda, she's out there fighting for communities that are abused by oil and gas facilities, right here in Los Angeles, that are being poisoned by oil and gas facilities, and using all of her power and her knowledge of storytelling to tell that story. So getting those people their human rights.
Yeah.
So it's just the group, the teamwork is where the dream work is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
A little sports quote. No, I love it. But yeah, I think typically like-minded individuals tend to gravitate towards one another and push that purpose, which can get then pushed on a larger scale.
Yeah. For sure.
I'm curious, out of all the, you've gone to many places, right, that are potentially poverty-stricken and lack of human rights. Has there been a particular place or a particular situation that's really, obviously we have Tombstone Pillow, which is a pretty big incident, but any other ones like that really stuck with you and you're like, gosh, something needs to be done? Or
well, for me, I mean, I don't know. I think it was the first meeting when we had written the film about the Middle East, because I was a professor and I'm literally on a bus, and before we go into the university where the classrooms are, they have to check under the bus for a bomb. I'm staying at a 5-star hotel. I'm lucky, but mind you, I think the year before that same hotel had been, part of it had been exploded, so I have to go into the hotel with, hotel airport security. And so for me, I was like, whoa, these students are just like my students in New York, but they have to be confronted with this every day. And so for me, I think that's something that needs to be brought awareness to. It's not just it's people. It's people having to experience this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and just right on top of what Bayou's saying, I grew up, I was born in Israel, in a very ancient fishing village called Jaffa, and there we have Arabs and Israelis living together. So for me, it's always like, it's working, it's mutually beautiful cultures. Like, why can't we live together? Yet we have suicide bombings, yet we have buses exploding, yet we have wars. Every time we make an advancement, there's some extremist on either side destroying the whole process for everyone. Whether it's a, radical terrorist group or whatever it is, on both sides, we have these unbelievable obstacles. And so human rights can't flourish. So what if we got people more understanding earlier on about human rights? Then we maybe wouldn't be facing these unbelievable just challenges that just don't go away.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know education pushes change, right? We get education, we get knowledge, we can push change. But yeah, it's a work. I mean, it's a project.
Yeah.
Right. It's a grassroots, hit the streets kind of campaign, which is obviously part of what we do, what you guys are doing, right? Just bringing more awareness on every level. I think you're impacting such change. It's kind of like I had this guy tell me the other day about there's 4 stages. Like, you don't know. So you're unaware of I'm not going to say stupidity, but you're unaware that you're unaware, right? And then you're aware that you're unaware.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? You're like, oh, I realize now that I don't know. But I think on such a level, we're unaware that we're unaware of what these human rights are, or that there is even a problem, or that there can be a better future, right? That was talked about in the beginning, right? There can be justice, there can be peace, there can be what you talked about, two different cultures living beautifully together in harmony, you know. But yeah, we need to at least be aware that we're unaware, and then we can strike some more change. But that's what you guys are doing. You're making individuals aware that they're unaware.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I just
thank you.
Yeah. And I just think it's just so amazing that, you know, Eleanor Roosevelt, like, you know, what a woman, right?
Yeah.
It's just amazing how, you know, one passionate person who has awareness can lead so many people towards awareness. It's just inspiring.
Yeah. There was many a great that kind of got there piece by piece, and then it all got pushed forward. Yeah. So what's next for you guys? Any projects you're working on to spark more change?
Yeah, I mean,
always.
That's always doing. It's like we wake up every day. It's like our mission. Like, how can we tell the best possible stories and entertain to the highest ability that we can, while, you know, uniting around stories that matter. So
we have a TV series.
I'm working on a TV series, and it really takes on the things that are really destroying this world. You know, like sex trafficking, human trafficking, taking on, you know, unfair abuse of prisoners. So in jails, and, you know, it's gonna get to the heart of a lot of things that are really destroying our world.
I'm
but
excited.
But it's gonna be
giving
empowering.
solutions and being empowering, kind of like looking like, okay, you know, we can do something about it. That type of feeling.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's my kind of TV series.
Yeah, and it's exciting. It's like has like the Mission Impossible James Bond type of.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to say too
don't
much.
say too much. And when's that due to?
Well, that is, we're working with a really amazing street artist who, you know, the first time we're collaborating with a visual artist who really shares our social change message and our passions about changing the world. And so we've been developing this project, and now we're presenting it to different studios and things like that, and different producers. So
nice.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're like, if we can just make our dream TV show, this would be it. You know, it's got everything in it. It's got suspense, it's got drama, it's got social change, it's got art, it's really cool.
Yeah. Child sex trafficking is a hard one to confront, huh?
Yeah.
He told this, you know, it's actually based on this artist's real world interactions doing this, you know, working like to stop this, to infiltrate groups who are actually doing this, you know, sex trafficking. And when I first heard these stories he was telling, I literally could not believe how one human being could treat people as a commodity, not just as a commodity, but as a sexual commodity. It's like you said, so hard to imagine and confront.
Yeah, I've had a few individuals and organizations, you know, we have found one of the hottest topics for organizations in human rights. I mean, we've probably had anywhere from 8 to 10 different organizations who work in the area in the United States. Well, there's one that works in Southeast Asia, but in the sex trafficking industry, right? And I mean, I was put into tears, you know, and just like, I don't believe, like, obviously I believe you, but it's jaw-dropping, unbelievable that this is happening, like you said, so gruesomely for one, and it's happening like in my backyard, right? And then you go to areas like Southeast Asia, and I just could not even believe, I mean, commodities.
Yeah.
I mean, just straight, I'll trade it for a TV. I just couldn't have it, you know. And but it was a great organization, and their solution was getting these families, these women, jobs. Like you had mentioned about the families in the Philippines, right? They want jobs so they don't have to continue the industry that they were born into, which is basically prostitution. So how can we have a job to support ourselves otherwise?
So amazing.
Here, I gave you your next movie. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you're so right. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
how it all kind of rests on the economy, doesn't it? Like having those opportunities to.
Yeah, economy, and then, you know, I think a lot of it too can come from at risk. So I don't want to say broken homes, but a little bit foster care, broken homes, at risk. Homelessness is seems to be with the groups that we've interviewed here. It perpetuates it. I need some security. Well, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Until it's really bad. So anyways. But yeah, I'm looking forward to your TV show because that's going to be fun.
Yes.
Anything else you want to share with the audience or anything like that?
I just would encourage people, the audience to, not think twice about taking your phone and just telling stories, because I think storytelling is the most powerful thing on the planet. Because you can take storytelling and you can inspire people and empower people and put out these messages and open people's eyes to things they don't know and make them more aware. So you have the power to change the world, whether it's your phone or otherwise, as a storyteller. And I believe that everyone can tell, a very, very excellent story. I really believe that.
And I think use your voice and don't be afraid to speak up for what you believe in. I think that's because we're kind of like taught sometimes to maybe not do that, or that it's dangerous in some way, and in the end it's like dangerous not to.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this, we want to help everyone on our planet, and so I think by communicating and getting your message out. We had a challenge that we did, Be the Change, and we're on the radio with K-Rock, with Megan Holiday, and we had a whole contest, and the best message won, and it was beautiful, and we gave them equipment and to keep going with their filmmaking. So I'd say, don't give up on your dreams, and always realize the power that you have as an artist, and to spread the message of truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And then if one wanted to get a hold of you, maybe, how would they go about doing that?
Well, our emails are on our website, dreamteamdirectors.com, Instagram, @dreamteamdirectors. You can DM us, you can email us. My phone number's on the website.
Daniel at Dream Team Directors.
I just want, it's just my dream to sort of stand for. Well, I think a lot of times in Hollywood, we have stories that are not very inspiring,
right.
not very uplifting,
totally.
And, kind of disturbing. And I personally get really upset when I see a really good film that's really, really well made, but is ultimately extremely disturbing and leaves you hopeless. And can we be, the force that turns that around, or at least, one of those key change makers that tells stories that they can be very dramatic and very upsetting and very difficult, but at the end of the day, at the end of the film, you feel motivated. You feel like you can do something about it. You feel inspired.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You will do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we ask each guest this last question, and that is, what is your favorite human right and why?
Well, I think we thought about it long and hard. We thought the right to education.
Yes.
We really did, because I just feel like our lives were first changed by learning something at some point that then changed our whole journey and our path. And I feel at different stages, when we get really good education that's really relevant, it really changes our life. For example, recently, I was in a relatively dangerous neighborhood in South Central LA, and there's a place called the Beehive where people from that particular community there can come and learn about entrepreneurship. And Oprah and different people put this together, and it's like walking into a paradise in a very difficult environment. And so that's education. It changes lives. It gets people to understand that they can be entrepreneurs, that they don't have to work a 9-to-5 job, or worse than that, sell drugs and things like this. So giving people that education is that seed that allows it to grow into this beautiful, forest of opportunity.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for being here, but more importantly for what you're doing every day and making the change that is definitely needed, and you're impacting, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives. So really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Well, that's our show for this week. Hopefully you got some tremendous information and, more importantly, inspiration on what you can do. Pick up your phone, tell your story, be a voice for yourself and others, advocate for human rights, educate yourself and others on what your human rights are. If you have an inspiring story, we would love to hear about it. Also, make sure you check out our social media pages. Our Facebook page is Youth for Human Rights California, and our Instagram and Twitter handles are @YHRCAL. Thank you, and until next time, I will see you then.